Well, kids, welcome to another episode of Barstools and Bandtalk, Rimshots with Sean, brought to you by Molson Canadian. You can't see it, but I am a corporate sellout. Nothing wrong with that.
I'm T-Roy, drums, Made of Stars, also the producer with Made of Stars Music.
I'm Charlie, a new addition to Made of Stars. I'm a singer, songwriter, producer, guitarist.
And gentlemen, you're coming to us today from where?
We are in Dublin, California, which is in the East Bay of California. So, the Bay Area, we're like 20 miles, 30 minutes outside of San Francisco.
Beautiful country, beautiful country. So
very beautiful.
You posted a video last week. I sent you a text. Now, we've been friends on Facebook for a few months. We've kind of talked back and forth a little bit. I saw the video, and just before we started recording, I said I couldn't put my finger on the influences. Very impressed with what I heard. Tell us what you guys are up to.
Well, Made of Stars Music, Made of Stars is a rock band, and you can see if you go to YouTube, Made of Stars Music, we have 2 songs out there, 2 singles that we basically written like a year to a year and a half ago, and we put that up on our channel. But Made of Stars is also at one point was building to be a record label, and eventually we branched out from that. But we worked with hip hop artists, we worked with jazz musicians, metal, pop, whatever you say, we worked with it. And so Made of Stars is basically, as far as the music side of things, we worked with everything. And that's how we met Charlie. Basically, the Bay Area was being blown up, saying that this kid was showing up to open mics. And that's how I met this kid. And they kept telling me, like, check out this kid, Charlie Silk. Check out this kid, Charlie Silk. And I kept laughing. I'm like, Charlie fucking Silk. Like, really? Come on. You guys call him Charlie Silk. Like, really? But I did. And my cousin owns a bar called the Back Lounge in Dublin. He played with Slayer for a little bit. He plays in Violence of Bayer, just guitar player. He was Machine Head for over a decade. His name is Phil Demmel, and he owns the bar. So Charlie was showing up, and he was grinding and grinding and grinding. And I finally showed up. I heard his voice. I was like, this kid's got it. So we started working together, and now he's part of the Made of Stars team, and we're doing an EP together. And we've already written 2 songs. What you saw when you contacted me was a segment that we did live. That was just live, just jamming. And I always like putting my artists outside the box, like step up to the plate is kind of how I've always been built. And he did. And a lot of that was freestyled. And like, you can't, once it's on the internet, you can't take it off the internet. And I like being built like that. And I like to see how, these kids, and, he's 25 years old, are built, and he tore it up. So, yeah, we're working on doing some an EP together, 4 or 5 songs. It's up to him. And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm really humbled and really appreciative of the love that I've been shown, the opportunities that have been presented in front of me. I just I can't help but to feel like a great appreciation. When it comes to music, I just love it. I live it, I breathe it, I can't stop thinking about it. So whenever anybody gives me an opportunity to step up to the plate to do what I gotta do, that's my bread and butter. That's what makes me truly happy.
Sean, I think that's the El Salvadorian trait. I don't know if you've been to El Salvador, but they're built different too.
And before we started recording, and Charlie, I didn't realize you're 25. And I mean, what you guys were talking about with your background for a 25-year-old, you've stuck a lot of life in a short period of time. So your background's very interesting, and I'm sure my viewers would love to hear more about it.
Man, my mother, when she was 15, she decided to leave, El Salvador. Down there, in her own words, a woman can only really aspire to be married to somebody who worked at the cement plant, because the town that my family's from is called Metapan. It's called Ciudad Calera, which means that the city of where they make the material that goes into cement, which is called cal. I don't know the direct translation in English, but basically that's the main component that goes into the cement. So her whole childhood, from she was young, she would tell me she always pictured herself as an attorney, as somebody in an office, somebody of power. So at 15, she decided to emigrate. And she made a life for herself. She did exactly what she said she was going to. Maybe she never became a lawyer, but she was a paralegal. And that's kind of like, by the time that I was old enough for any of that to matter, it had dried up. So I never got to see that money. But I grew up with seeing the mom that hustles, that grinds. She moved us out, to North Carolina when we were younger. because she was kind of done with LA. You know, prices were getting more expensive. Also, you know, me being Salvadorian, LA being kind of where, you know, some bad things started when it comes to like, I'm talking about like MS-13, all that gang activity and stuff. So she moved us out. She wanted us to live a more quiet life. So we went to North Carolina. Spent most of the majority of my life there, high school.
And then he joined the song. You know Petey Pablo? Take your shirt off, spin around like a helicopter. You know that, Sean, right? Yeah, he was a part of that movement.
That was a fun time, man. But, you know, I moved out here in 2017 with my brother. We're basically gonna be homeless, long situation, and he was still in school. I was working, kind of to help the both of us out. When he graduated, we were like, screw it, man. I sold my car. We hopped in what was my mom's car, but then was my brother's car at the time, and we just drove, man. Actually, halfway through in Salina, Kansas, it's probably still there. The car broke down. The engine seized. So we lost the car and half of our stuff.
Where was that in Kansas again?
Salina.
So you know your car and probably only a Pizza Hut exists there.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, there was no Uber there. There was a
fucking duh.
There was a car service called Cab or Taxi, and it was an old white lady named Candy. You can't make this up, man.
Probably 30 miles. There was a strip club, and Candy at 60 was still dancing on that pole.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. So where you guys are at, I mean, that the Bay Area, you know, when I'm up here in Canada, I've heard for years what the music scene is like there. And I mean, you guys have everything there. You have metal, you have jazz, you have, blues, talk about what it's like to be in that area. Cause it's not like one size fits all, right? There's a huge melting pot.
To be honest, Sean, like you nailed it. And I want to shine a light on that. By the way, Nick's Cal, bass player for Metastars, is joining in real quick.
How you doing? If I'm in, hey,
that's Sean. He was tracking some bass downstairs. So to be honest with you, like I've always, and Rocky's joining us too, my dog. Hey, grab Rock Show. Show the people who Rock Show's all about.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
He's the real lady killer right here.
Yeah, studio dog right here. So the truth is, like, the Bay Area is the melting pot of music, and you nailed it. And I really think that there's not another, outside of personality-wise, music-wise, a place like it, Sean, to be honest with you. Even when we toured a lot. We ran into Detroit, right?
Yeah,
and we're like,
they're
built like us. Like it's freaking awesome. Like the people in Detroit, which is so like it's nuts, but they get down with the Bay, and Bay gets down with Detroit. It's like the personalities, the love. There's something about those two that work well. But the truth is, yeah, when you're down here, like you go to San Francisco and my Neeks, his cousin's a DJ, so he's always out there in the scene in San Francisco doing things. So you could probably jump in real quick about styles.
But the difference on that we're saying with Detroit and that, man, we love Detroit so much, and shout out to Detroit and Michigan that took care of us so much. Is I'm gonna say they stuck with like 10 years behind us of music that is as we love. Does that make sense? Every time I go there, it's always home. It's rock. Rock is always Detroit, Rock City, 100%. And that's real to me. Like we go in the Bay Area, it moves so fast that come on, there's a DJ here, they're into this over here, they're left to right, forward, up and down.
You go to San Francisco, Berkeley, you can hit EDM, you can hit a metal show, you can hit, like typical pop show, all within like a mile radius of 3 miles. Yeah, exactly. Jam bands are back to life out here. So like that still exists here in the Bay, which is cool,
But with it, like going at Detroit is the rock city, and I just love rock needs to be more around, and musicians and that, and hopefully we can bring that more in the Bay because it's so spread out. But it is love out here, so
yeah. Well, and the thing that I talked to another couple of bands out there, and one of the things, and I've never been to that part of the world, but what I get from the people that I talk to is there's a real camaraderie amongst the musicians there. Like people want to help each other out, promote each other's shows. If you need equipment, here's the equipment. You hear the stories about, Metallica starting out there years and years and years ago. They came up from LA and went to San Francisco and exploded. It just seems like it's, a little bit more workman than some of the other places, but it also seems like it's a lot more of a musical community than maybe I lived in Toronto for 7 years. Toronto's cutthroat, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I want to shout out, like, even before Metallica came here, the Exoduses, the Testaments, those guys were doing it, making a scene out here, killing it. And then, it all kind of came into one conglomerate, and then Metallica obviously took the Bay and made it next level, because there's levels of this thing. But Exodus and Testament, we're always here doing it and always killing it. And the truth is, yeah, like you said, if somebody needs help, people from the Bay, we're like that. We're going to help you out. It doesn't matter if you're jazz, it doesn't matter if you're this or that, black, Indian, white, Mexican. Like, we really are culturally like that, if it's music or just people. And that's what I tried to talk about earlier, Sean, on that first question that you asked about personalities. And Detroit really has a lot of that too. It really does.
Yeah.
A lot of pockets of it.
Yeah. They zone on that. Definitely family origin. You're in the
Oriented.
music. Yeah, you're in music. Music is family, all that. I mean, no colors that. If you can jam, you're jamming, we're taking under your wing, right? And they always do that. Especially Detroit, they're called the Wings, right? They're little hockey guys.
Yes.
Yeah,
No, but
Nice.
it's love, though. It's love. Yeah, Detroit Wings, you know what I mean? They're on it. But
So
no, but it's love. I mean, you have to.
Yeah.
so you guys posted that song there. It was last week, and and I'm listening. It was only a snippet. It was about 25, maybe 30 seconds, but it had a vibe. It had a groove. It had like when you record with a phone or whatever you guys are doing. I mean, it's out there. It's live. It's and it sounded really very cool.
That was all live. Yep.
I could not put my finger on the influences. So maybe Charlie, I'll start with you. What are some of the bands that you're listening to that are making up Made of Stars and making your guys' sound?
So I know Made of Stars, they're very rock influenced. Like his band, he had a band, 6 Weeks Sober. He was doing his thing for the longest time.
Well, that's our band, but I love you.
We love you, Nick.
We get it. My influences, honestly, it's funny because I grew up listening to like Linkin Park. That was the first band I ever listened to outside of like Christian music. My mom was very devout Pentecostal Christian, so I had to keep my music to myself. But Linkin Park was the first band. There's actually a video of me when I was a baby with my brother jumping on the couches singing, I think, "Crawling" by Linkin Park. I grew up listening to that. A lot of heavy, heavy metal. Metallica was my band for sure. And as the years progressed, I got more into like R&B, hip hop. Kanye, obviously, when Kanye was just getting started. I think Graduation was my favorite album by him. It just has this vibe. He named it that because he had graduated, right, quote unquote. He had accomplished what he set out to accomplish, and it just has this celebratory vibe to it that I really fell in love with. And most recently, I think Frank Ocean is definitely my top artist personally right now. So I love the way he evokes emotion. I love the way that he tells his stories. It's very abstract. It's very just full of imagery. And it's hard for me to say that I have any one thing that I draw from. It's really just music, because whatever mood I'm in, I'd love to play some blues or maybe some jazz. It really just depends on my mood. But I love all music.
Well, can I throw this out there? Because when I heard the tune, and again, it was only 25, 30 seconds, and I was just like, geez, I'd like to hear more. But it sounded to me like you guys got in a room, just banged it out, and came up with what that was.
Cutting in and out, Sean.
Sorry, I say you guys got in a room.
Hey, Sean, you cutting in and out, my brother.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we got you.
All right. It sounded like you guys just got in a room and banged it out. What you came up with was the tune. But it didn't sound contrived. It just sounded like you guys were jamming and putting it together. Is that a fair statement?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter what genre it is. I don't think it just has to meld. You know what I mean? The energy has to be there. Because I mean, we're living in a world where you can't really put things on genre anymore because everything is interconnected. You got Lil Nas X doing a song with Billy Ray Cyrus. You got R&B and hip hop and country together there. I can't off the top of my head come up with a lot of examples, but everything is kind of melding together. So I don't ever worry about the genre. I just worry about the overall feel of the project, of whatever we're going to towards. It just has to. I like to just let it be what it's gonna be. I don't really want to have tight restrictions on it, because you can't really make something, I dare say groundbreaking. I won't say anything else than that, but you can't really break through if you're sticking to certain parameters, right, you kind of have to stretch that. You kind of have to see what works here and there, and through trial and error, you get through something, and not just in like, you know, what say trial and error one song where you're working on it for days, but you know, you yourself as a person working on your musicianship to the point where you could do anything with any genre. You know, it's really just a vibe and where the feeling is.
And the cool thing, if I can interject real quick, I don't like working with artists that have egos, that have like, they come in and they say, hey, this is what it is, and it's A. And I always tell them, I was like, you have A. Let's work together and let's see if it can be B or C. Let's understand that you have what you have, at the end of the day, but let's try to work different angles. Let's try to do different things, different maybe concepts that you wouldn't go there. So the one thing about Charlie, which was super cool, and it was nice because we could probably talk about this. It's up to you. After a year and a half, Made of Star has been laid off, but now since we back at it, the cool thing about Charlie, like, call it God, call it the universe, call it whatever you want to call it. But the kid came in just ready to work and had no ego, knew what he had, and just like, look, let's see what we can come up with. And I'm not going to lie, it's been, for me as a producer who've worked with a lot of artists, it's been fascinating. And I'm telling you, this kid's the next one to blow.
Hands down with Charlie, because even musicians working with them in the last, couple of weeks, I mean, it's just fun. When this guy,
and I got
no egos, like you said, Troy, just piggyback.
Chemistry, you need that. You need that.
And it's like, I'm working with the bass lines. We're like, yo, we're doing this. Like, I don't even know nothing. We're coming in, just having a great time, and just, pumping music out, like what we used to do back in, when you first started as a musician. You just jam.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rocky, as you're saying that, and one of the things you guys mentioned Linkin Park, and I had no idea today's the anniversary of Chester's passing, and it's on Chris Cornell's birthday. I had no idea until I saw that today on the internet. But as a bass player, because I always like to ask bass players this question. I'm a drummer myself. I've played with many different styles. What type of drummer, and I know who you're gonna say because he's sitting there with you, but that's fine. But what type of drummer,
he's real. He's Sicilian like me. You know what I mean? He's real.
Yeah. What's your preferred style in terms of a drummer that you like to play with, or does it matter? You just jump in and do your thing.
Well, you know what? I mean, I've been working with Troy forever, right? It's my drummer for my last probably 12, 15 years, right? So drumming to me is more of I'm a melody guy. So if you learn my bass lines, what I do a lot, I'm a lot of chords, everything. I'm almost like a sick puppy kind of vibe. So I do a lot of chords and I still integrate. So I'm like a bass guitarist. I always call myself that, like a bass guitarist. So my drummer needs always, what I love is hold down his pedal, what he does, that little bass drum. And that's what Troy does a lot. He has this heavy foot, it's fast, he does that, and he hits hard. I need that boom, boom. I need that bass line there. I could jump on that, but I need the melody because I like to go back and forth. So my drummer just has to have that, his bass line I actually go with. So a drummer needs to direct me almost. Because I'm always I want to be with the guitar player and the singer. I want to be all into that, but I definitely want to tie on my drummer. But he lays it down. I need a drummer that lays it down for me a little bit.
So we're getting a little geeky here, but I find some bass players don't have
a little geeky.
Yeah,
my
what
bad.
I call
Is that too much?
anticipation.
That's what we're digging in music. My bad.
A little gear heavy. I find some bass players that I've played with lack what I call anticipation. So you're grooving along and you're about to do an accent or something, and it's just a little bit off because, live feel and all that stuff. It's not exactly boom. It's kind of, and some guys just don't have that. And when you have a drummer and a bass player that have that anticipation together, it's magic.
Like you always said, better hit that one, right?
Hit that one. I'm always on the one. So I'm always looking at my dude. No matter what, I'm looking at him, but my dude, the drummer controls the session. I have to. So I end up with that last note on that, definitely.
So we're gonna wrap segment one because there's a whole bunch of stuff that I want to get to in the next segment. And Troy, you and I talked the other night, and you talked about some challenges that you had. I don't know if you're comfortable to talk about that or not.
Dude, I'm open book.
Okay, so we're gonna come back next segment and cover that
for sure
after this.
Thanks, Sean.
Hey, appreciate you.